Hey, everybody. This is Rita Batchley, and this is Coffee with the Nurse's Nurse, where you'll get tips on how to get the care back in healthcare. Because it starts with you, my friend, because you can't give away something you don't got. So, taking care of yourself is your number one priority. Speaking of which, showing up today. Hey, that's a start. You showing up for you on how to take better care of yourself because you matter and your life depends on this stuff. Anyhow, today's topic is how to stop being a people pleaser. Like, is that even possible? Because I got to say, I have been a stand and deliver kind of person, but I also have been a people pleaser. Because what is people pleasing? We all know that people pleasing is that yes person, that brown noser who is just trying to make everybody happy. And I got to say, we all got a little bit of something in us that listens to that voice because, yeah, we don't want to be like have no friends and just be a total, like a jerk and just always being like pushy or bossy or just no, we're not going to get very far, especially like if you're a new nurse in a new job and you're trying to get along with your coworkers, your boss, you're trying to make friends. They say you can't be a friend unless you are a friend, and you can't make friends unless you're a friend to yourself. So that's what I'm talking about, being a people pleaser on the outside or being a people pleaser from the inside. And that inside job is what I'm talking about, because when it comes to self-care, we have to connect with this loving caregiver within us. And that's like this true north. And I like to put my hand over my head and just, feel that presence of my true self and my true north coming down. Because it's like this voice. It's not like this know-it-all self. It's not like, it's definitely not this victim self or the baby mode self where it's all about me. But it's this knowing of, it's a kindness. It's a, has a good sense of humor self. It's realistic. We talk about realistic goals in nursing all the time. Well, my people pleaser inside of me is realistic. So I'll give you an example of that. Like when I was a labor and delivery nurse. When I say once a nurse, always a nurse. And I worked in labor and delivery, and patients would come in, and of course I want to be loving and kind to them. But if you come in there with unrealistic expectations of labor, like it's not going to hurt, it's really hard for me to do my job. So I'd have to take it for where it was at. If someone comes in and they're not even in labor yet, like they're just 1 centimeter, but they're really scared and they have a lot of questions, and they want to know what's going on. And you try to just be nice and tell them, hey, you got a long haul to go here. I'm trying to get, people are going crazy on my phone here for some reason, and that's crazy. Hello. You're live on the Nurse's Nurse, Karen Teitelbaum.
Hey, how are you?
I'm live on live stream. So what can I do for you?
I don't know. Your husband asked me to join you.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to go onto Facebook. So you would have Facebook, your Facebook, and just look me up, Rita Batchley on Facebook, and then you'll be able to
Well,
watch me.
that's what I did, and I got you on my phone. But I
That's
also have my portal here, and we're trying to figure what. It might have to be on the computer, right?
no, you could be on your phone, on your yeah, you could be on your phone as long as you're on the app, the Facebook app.
Yeah, that's the thing with the portal. It's not going to have the actual app, so you can use your.
Yeah, I gotta go. Good luck. Yeah.
Okay, I'll see what I can do.
Thanks. Well, that was crazy, but here I am back again, live on Facebook. And this is what it is when you're live on Facebook, because it says the video is now live, and the comments, Irene says perfectly said, but I think that's old. Anyhow, here we are. And yeah, that's part about being live. It's spontaneous. It's putting myself out there because I just want to share the love for my nursing friends and colleagues, because people pleasing is a big deal. And the biggest deal about people pleasing right now is the difference between being in crisis mode and being in regular, like quiet mode, I'll call it. So when a patient comes in and they're 1 centimeter, I'm able to talk to them and reason with them and be in my true self, in that place of like, okay, I'm 100% focused on this patient and I'm there for you. And we're going to talk about, labor and the expectations and how bad it's going to hurt. And they might be able to hear me at that point, depending on a lot of other factors, of course, their level of maturity, education, all this other stuff. But I think you get the point that when we're in a quiet space and we show up in our true north, that's not being a people pleaser in the sense of trying to please you from the outside. Being pleasing and cooperative from this inner true north of, yeah. But if someone comes in and they're 7 centimeters and they're like out of control, screaming and yelling and just like, woo, I mean, I've helped deliver over 3,000 babies. I know what screaming women are like and being in crisis mode, and it's crazy. And I just know I can't reason with someone at that point. So I would just tell them to breathe in between the contractions. I would sometimes physically have to grab not grab, but I'd say, look at me, look in my eyes. You're okay. Let's breathe together. And I would slow it down and help them rebalance, recapture their equilibrium, their homeostasis, whatever you want to call it. But get back into their own body and be present with what they could and could not do in the situation. And the best we could do at any one given situation is to accept, I have about 30 more seconds or a minute and a half until my next contraction. I can calm down, or I could continue to freak out and just totally lose it. And most people, when I focus them to look in my eyes, were able to do that. And what does this have to do with being a people pleaser for you? Well, it has to do with, we teach people how to treat us. When the hospital's in crisis mode and they're asking you to step it up and to take on more patients than is like humanly possible. Like if it's a one-time situation, it's different than if it's happening day in and day out. And that's the difference between someone asking for you to be a people pleaser when they're 1 centimeter or when they're 7 centimeters, or, in total crisis, like the pandemic, or is it like this is every single day now? And that's what's been happening for the last 2 years. Nurses have been like battered Every single day is another crisis with the pandemic and what the expectations are at the workplace. What kind of equipment is available to protect yourself against the COVID, how the patients are supposed to show up, and just on and on with one thing after the other. So to show up with yourself, taking that deep breath and calming myself down as far as, what is coming out of this crisis mode is that your managers and the people around you have an expectation now that you're going to show up and do the work of 3 people every day instead of being kind and saying, oh, well, now, things are slowing down a little bit. We know how to deal with COVID better. People are vaccinated. We're ready to restore some sanity into the workplace. And unless nurses step up and stick up for themselves, it's going to be the same business as usual. And I don't mean business pre-pandemic. I mean pandemic business as usual. Because even when the pandemic's gone, business model of paying for a certain amount of staff, be it nursing staff, ancillary staff, they're going to want to keep those conditions because nurses have proved that they could do this. But it's come to this crisis point now where nurses are just done. These, the rate at which nurses are quitting, they're taking travel positions if they can, or they're just leaving. They're going from one hospital to the next hospital to the highest bidder and so on. And the new nurses that are left in training, they're just fresh out of training. They don't have mentors. It's crushing. It's crushing the healthcare system. So in order to keep that from happening, we got to teach our bosses or administration how to treat us. So stepping it up, we got to get out of the crisis mode. So that means get out of victim mode. So for whatever reason you were doing the overtime, and a lot of times it's to help each other out, our team, and we're trying to take a hit for our team members. We start to realize that we can't keep going on like that. We can't keep giving 115%. It's just not sustainable. So to get out of crisis mode, we have to stop the defensiveness of when we say no, we mean no, and it's a full sentence. We don't have to explain why we can't do another shift. We don't have to explain why we can't do the overtime. Just no, that's not going to work for us. That's not going to work for me. And to really stop making excuses, because right away, trying to please everybody, your teammates, the hospital, if you don't sit by your own true self of like, I'm tired, I can't keep going on like that, I need to take care of myself, because it just causes all this resentment to build up and to build up. This loving caregiver that's inside of you, inside of me, inside of all of us wants us to be happy. And it's not dependent upon what I do or don't do. It's already inside of me. So how do I show this to myself? By making sure I get my 30-minute lunch break, by making sure that I get enough rest, by eating healthy food and planning healthy food and menus and meals so that I'm not just grabbing garbage and trying to sustain myself on that. It's about, you know what? If you don't even know what I'm talking about as far as this loving caregiver inside of you, a loving voice, then yeah, maybe professional help is what you need. Is like go ask or yeah, go use your insurance through your job and go see a therapist to explain what that is. Because if you're unsure about a loving voice inside of you or a true north or your true self, then yeah, then you got to go back to a basic self-care model, which is seeing a provider to help you decipher what that is, how to hear your own needs and what you're feeling, and how to ask for help. Because it's a vicious cycle of bullying, fear, guilt, and sadness. And that keeps going around and round. And the anger, like all I could feel for the longest time was how angry I was. And I used that anger to, I took on a lot of leadership in my organization where I worked with a union. And I took up, I wrote a book to purge my frustration out onto those pages because I felt so angry. But once I started to take care of myself, I felt what was underneath that anger. And there was a lot of fear. And I just didn't even know how difficult it was to be a nurse and be in charge of people's well-being. Like that was just a given for me. Suiting up and showing up as a nurse was a very natural, and it was a really good fit for me because I could just like, I was a warrior. I just went in there. I could, go for 12 hours, live on that adrenaline and just get the job done. And I got to say, I was a good nurse and at the bedside. I'm a great nurse now. But what I did for 30 years, I got to say, I really enjoyed it because I really did a lot of good service and helped a lot of people. But I was really angry at the way that healthcare was being delivered. And now I'm really kind of sad because I'm seeing the care being sucked out of healthcare. It's like running from room to room and being bullied by administration, the nurses feeling like they don't have a voice. And that really saddens me. I saw in the American Nurses Association, their newest January edition, volume 17, number 1 of My American Nurse, and it's on americannurse.com. In this journal, the nurse, they talk about a pathway to excellence and a framework to combat PTSD. It's a great article, and I highly recommend reading it because this is what is going on right now in nursing. The pandemic has caused a huge trauma because when all this taking care of the well-being of others and being in charge of life and death situations and feeling powerless over how we do our jobs is caused a lot of trauma in nurses, and the nightmares, the anxiety, the panic attacks are real. They are real, my friend. And showing up today to the nurse's nurse, coffee with the nurse's nurse, is the first step for you to get tips on how to put that care back into healthcare, because it starts with self-care. So reading these journals, talking to a friend, just meeting up with your girlfriends or other nurses at lunch. It's really powerful to witness those feelings inside that are inside of you, but to bring them out into the world and have them be heard. And that is what so many nurses say, that all they want is to be heard and have a voice in their governance and in the processes of how their job is done and how their needs are met at their job. Because saying what you need and not being a people pleaser, like if you just say, no, I can't work that extra shift, you can have retaliation. Maybe, you're not going to get fired, or maybe, I don't know, some of you might get fired, but you might, a manager or somebody could make it really difficult for you, that you don't get your paid time off, that your schedule just gets really messed up. And that's really hard. But we got to start somewhere, because without stepping back and getting out of the crisis mode and just having someone hold you up to a mirror and look in your eyes and say, breathe, take care of yourself, say no when you can, don't negotiate the no. No is the final answer, but I could say yes if you would give me this day off instead, or address another way in which I can take better care of myself, like a guaranteed lunch break, or getting away for an hour, taking a walk during the middle of the day, like a 20-minute break where you could actually leave your unit. So that is a lot of stuff that we went over today. And as far as how to stop people pleasing, well, first of all, to find out, is it coming from a place inside of you? Am I trying to please myself, or am I trying to please everyone around me? Because you can't make everybody happy. In fact, if you're basing your life around what other people think of you, if you're okay, then yeah, finding that therapist's phone number might be the best option for you. If you can't even tell when how to be truly loving and kind to yourself. But yeah, so if you're always trying to make everybody happy and be that yes person, and you don't even know you're doing it, then just understanding the damage you're doing by being a people pleaser, because you're not giving other people the opportunity to learn their lessons. Like when we keep saying yes and they're not going to hire full-time employees because they believe that one nurse is capable of doing the job of 2 or 3 nurses. They're not going to spend that money on that nurse. They're going to keep giving you that assignment, those kinds of assignments that's going to keep you in that crisis mode. And putting a stop to that is really hard, but you can do it. You can find the support that you need, first of all, by just practicing, like faking it, like pretend in a mirror, like your boss is telling you, oh yeah, we just had a sick call, can you work such and such? And you know what, if you're truly in victim mode and you're living like from paycheck to paycheck and you're really like suffering financially, then you're going to say yes for other reasons. But if you're just saying it because one more time, you're just sucking it up, or you're just stuck in this vortex of working so you could be numb, so that you don't have to feel anything. I mean, there's that too. So there's a lot of reasons why people are people pleasers. So I don't really think we can stop being a people pleaser, because it's part of life to want people to like you and to like yourself. But it's another issue when it becomes a way that you're teaching people to take advantage of you, or that you're an easy mark to be taken advantage because you don't know how to stick up for your own true self. Another interesting article that I saw this week was, let me find it. Yeah, addressing burnout. So there's been, let me find it. Sorry about that. Yeah. The Health Resources and Services Administration, the federal government, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, through HRSA, awarded $103 million in American Rescue Plan money to 45 grantees to reduce burnout and promote mental health and wellness to the health workforce. That is you and me, my friend. And you can learn more about it. I just got this off of Show Me Your Stethoscope yesterday. That's one of my Facebook groups that I love. And I love getting with those nurses because they're so awesome. And I learn a lot of stuff from them and what's going on and how they're dealing with all of the crises. And that's one of the things. And some of the comments on there, they were a little discouraging. Like some nurses are just like, oh, it's a little too late. And it's just going to be about having to go to meetings where they try to decide how they're going to use the money. And then it turns into just nothing is done about it. And my answer to that is not, I don't know how to do this, but how do we learn to do this? How do we learn to deal with this burnout, this compassion or caregivers fatigue, and get to that place of being our higher selves, so that our higher selves can show up for us, but also for others, so that we can be that true north and be the caring and the education that is so needed out there in our population and for our communities. So keep showing up, nurses. Go to my Nurses Nurse Facebook page and subscribe, join my group. Go on to my YouTube, The Nurses Nurse. You can subscribe, and I'm going to be putting some live videos up on there to keep this going, because showing up for yourself is the first step. And I really appreciate you sticking in there and listening. Appreciate all your comments and your fellowship, because I can't do this alone. And getting past this crisis is something that we could all learn from and be better from. So thanks so much. And until next week, I'm Rita Batchley, and this is Coffee with the Nurses Nurse, where you'll get tips on how to put the care back in healthcare. Salud.